Today we're going to finish working in Chapter 7, Lesson 3. But what we're going to focus in on is not exactly what the answer is to an equation, but what type of an answer are we given. So what this means is once you solve your equations, you'll see that you either have an answer, such as x equals 4. That's pretty much what we've been solving up until now. What you're going to notice sometimes is when you do solve an equation, you might end up with something like this where your variable cancels out and you're left with a statement that says 4 equals 8. And you're going to notice, well, 4 doesn't equal 8. It's not the same thing. Therefore, what we call this, when something like this happens, is no solution because it's not a true statement. And then the third type of problem that we're going to come up with is one where you solve the problem. Again, you don't have a variable, and your result tells you 5 equals 5, or maybe it's 7 equals 7. If this happens where it is a true statement, where what you're left with is true, then it's called infinite. That means that any number you substitute into the equation would work to still make the equation true. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at solving some of these equations, and then after we solve, identify what type of a solution it is. So your different types are, is your solution only one answer, so just a one answer solution like we have here? Is your solution something that's called no solution, or is it something that's called infinite solution? So that's what we're going to focus in on today and take a closer look at today. So let's take a look at our first example. We have an equation here that has distributive property on both sides. So before we can start solving the equation, we have to distribute what's outside of parentheses by multiplication to everything inside the parentheses. So we're going to start off by doing negative 2 times x, and that gives us negative 2x. We're also going to do negative 2 times positive 3, which gives me negative 6. Now, everything that I didn't use just gets dropped down. So we still have to include that minus x. It just wasn't distributed. It wasn't multiplied because it's outside of the parentheses. We also have to do to the other side. So what you'll notice here is what is directly in front of the parentheses is negative 4. So we have to multiply everything inside the parentheses by negative 4. So that gives us a negative 4x. And it also, negative 4 times positive 2 gives me minus 8. The minus x wasn't used, so don't forget to drop that down. Now again, we still can't solve our equation yet because we have things on both sides of the equal sign that we can simplify. Now, one thing that I want to make sure you're doing well is showing your work. So sometimes it's helpful to just draw a line straight down, and that distinguishes the left side of the equation versus the right side of the equation. So then from here, I noticed that I have a minus x and I have a minus 2x. So I'm thinking, what is negative 2 minus, well, how many over here? 1. So negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3x. That minus 6 was not combined, so it just drops down. I also need to combine my like terms on the left side. So I have a negative x, how many? 1. And I have a negative 4x. So negative 1 minus 4 is negative 5. So we have negative 5x there. And then we still have minus 8. From here, I'm going to move the 5x to the other side. Right now it shows minus 5x. So to move it, I have to add 5x to both sides of my equation. So this cancels. I still have the negative 8. Drop down the minus 6 because that hasn't been used. And negative 3 plus 5x is positive 2x. From here, I have to add 6 to both sides. That cancels. I'm left with 2x equals negative 2. I divide by 2. I divide by 2. This cancels, and x equals negative 1. So I have a solution. It's one answer. So this type of solution is called a one solution problem. So we have one answer. So we call that one solution. So the type is called a one solution. Let's go ahead and look at another example. All right, here, again, we have to start off by doing distributive property. I have to multiply -2 by x and by 3. So when I do that, I get -2x minus 6. That x wasn't used, so it gets dropped down. We have to multiply -3 times x, which gives me -3x. -3 times +2 is minus 6x. Drop down the 2x, which was not used. From here, I'm thinking -2. Nope, I can't combine that with 6, but I have a positive x and I have a -2. So this is saying 1 minus 2 is -1x, or -x. We still have the minus 6. 2 minus 3 is -1x. Drop down the minus 6 because it wasn't used. From here, we can add 1x to both sides. That cancels, and that cancels, and we're left with -6 equals -6. Well, that's true because they're both the exact same number, and -6 is equal to -6. So what this means is that we could put any number in for x that we wanted, and we would get a true solution. So this is called infinite solutions. Now, why do we call it infinite? Because anything you put in will hold true, and let me show you what that looks like. Let's go ahead and start. Let's solve this problem by putting the number 1 in for x. So we do 1 minus 2 times 1 plus 3 equals 2 times 1 minus 3 times 1 plus 2. If you simplify that, 1 plus 3 is 4, and 2, so I'm going to simplify everything on the left side of that line first. 2 times 4 is 8, and 1 minus 8 is -7. Here, 2 times 1 is 2. 1 plus 1 right here is 3, so we have -3 times 3 is -9, and 2 minus 9 is -7. So I can put any number in for x that I want, and I will always get a true statement at the end. I will have the same number on the left side of the equal sign as I do on the right, and that's why we call this type of a problem an infinite solution problem. All right, my last one here. We have 4 times x, which results in 4x. We have 4 times -2, which results in -8. We drop down the -2x. We do -1 times x, which is -1x. We do -1 times -2, which is +2. 3x drops down. Simplify both sides of the equation. So 4x minus 2x is 2x. Still have -8. 3x minus x is 2x, and now we have +2. From here, we can move the variables to the left side, so subtract 2x, subtract 2x, that cancels, and you're left with 2. 2x minus 2x, that also cancels, and now we're left with -8 equals 2. Now, is that a true statement? No. So no solution would be our answer here. Nothing that you put in for the variable will make this stay to be a true solution. So what you're going to do today is you're going to look at 3 different types of problems. You're going to look at problems that when you solve them, you get 1 answer. 1 answer means you have 1 solution. You'll solve problems where you have no solution, where you end up with something like 4 equals 8 where it's not true. And then you'll have problems that are infinite, where when you solve them, they still create a true statement. So what I would like for you to do right now is I would like for you to write down the 3 different types of solutions. 1 solution, no solution, infinite solution. So you have an example to look back at. When you're done with that, I have a new sheet for you to work on. This one will be labeled number, I think it's number 8. So look for the worksheet that says number 8. There'll be 3 to 5 problems on that for you to solve, and then you can bring that back to me and I'll check before you move on to the last video.